The sun burned like judgment over the Arizona plains. The land stretched in every direction, a vast, bone-dry ocean of dust and heat shimmer, broken only by ridges of red rock and scattered mesquite. The air was thick with the hum of cicadas and the taste of grit on every breath. Nothing lived out here except things too stubborn to die, and that was exactly what Cole Hartman was, too stubborn to die. He rode alone, hat tipped low against the glare, his stallion Whiskey carrying him steady through the wasteland. A rifle hung by the saddle, a Colt .45 rested on his hip, and the creak of old leather sang with every step. The man looked carved out of the desert itself, scarred, lean, sunburnt, and quiet. He wasn't running anymore. Not from the bounty, not from the ghosts. Just riding. It had been 3 years since the Hartman ranch went up in flames. 3 years since Cole buried his brother beneath that twisted oak and swore off gunfights forever. Now he was just a drifter, a man with dust on his soul, looking for water in places that never had any. But that morning, something stirred the silence, a sound, unnatural, desperate. Not wind, not coyote. A cry. Cole pulled on the reins. Whiskey snorted, ears twitching. The cry came again, a strangled, almost human wail from beyond the dry gulch. Cole's hand went to his revolver by instinct, scanning the ridges. Then he saw it. At first, just movement, a shimmer of gold and dust. Then clearer, a lioness. Big, lean, and wild, her coat glinting like sunlight through whiskey. She was pacing at the edge of a pit, muscles rippling under tension. Cole narrowed his eyes. A mountain lion that size was trouble, but her posture wasn't right. She wasn't hunting. She was panicking. He rode closer, careful. Whiskey pawed at the dirt, uneasy. "Easy, boy," Cole murmured. Then he saw the pit, a patch of earth, wet, black, deceptive, quicksand, and half buried in it, flailing weakly, was a lion cub. Its small head barely above the surface, eyes wide with terror, paws sinking every time it struggled. The mother clawed at the edge, roaring and growling, frantic, but she couldn't step closer without being swallowed herself. Cole exhaled. "Well, I'll be damned." The lioness turned toward him, her amber eyes blazing. She hissed low, teeth bared, a warning. "Yeah, I see it," he said quietly. "You're protecting your own." "Ain't we all?" He dismounted slowly, never breaking eye contact. The wind picked up, carrying the scent of dry sage and danger. He took a step forward. The lioness growled deep, tail lashing. Cole lifted his hands. "I ain't here to hurt him. You got my word." He studied the ground. There was solid dirt near the edge, but one wrong step would mean death. Quicksand in this part of the desert was like a rattler underfoot, quiet, patient, and deadly. He needed something long. He pulled his lasso off the saddle and coiled it tight. The lioness watched every move. Cole worked fast. He tied one end to a dead mesquite stump and tested the rope. The other end he looped into a wide circle. "All right, little fella," he muttered, voice steady. "Time to come out of the devil's drink." He swung the loop and let it drop just ahead of the cub. The lioness snarled, stepping forward, but froze when the cub let out a pitiful whimper. Cole gently pulled, inching the rope closer. Sweat trickled down his neck. Another minute, and he had it around the cub's chest. He pulled slow and steady, muscles straining. The wet sand sucked like a living thing refusing to give up its prey. "Come on. You ain't dying here." The lioness paced, roaring at the sky, then back at him, her eyes almost pleading. It was a look that cut straight through him. He pulled harder. The cub came free with a wet pop, coughing, covered in muck. Cole stumbled back, gasping, hauling it onto dry land. The lioness leapt forward. Cole braced for death, but she didn't attack. She nosed the cub gently, licking the mud from its fur. Then she turned her gaze on Cole again, silent, unreadable, but not hostile. For a moment, time stopped. Just a man, a lioness, and the harsh land that birthed them both. Then the lioness did something that froze Cole's breath. She nuzzled his boot. Just once, a silent primal thank you. Then, with her cub in her jaws, she disappeared into the ridges. Leaving only paw prints and dust, Cole stood still for a long moment. "Guess I did something right today," he muttered, climbing back onto Whiskey. Ain't that something, boy? But as he turned his horse toward the horizon, he noticed something else. Hoof prints, fresh ones, and not just one or two. A whole mess of them circling the gulch. He crouched and studied the ground. Wagon tracks, broken glass, boot marks, one heel print with a silver horseshoe emblem burned into the dirt. His jaw tightened. He knew that mark, the black. Vultures, outlaws, killers. The same gang that had burned the Hartman ranch. Cole's hand went to his revolver. So it's you again. He swung up onto Whiskey, spurred him hard, and thundered westward toward the canyons. By sundown, the desert turned gold. The wind carried the smell of smoke and whiskey, the kind that came from a campfire and a dozen dirty men. Cole followed it down into a ravine, keeping low. Voices drifted up, rough, laughing, drunk. He crept closer and saw them. 6 men in black dusters, horses tied nearby, guns resting in laps. Their leader, Clay Boone, sat by the fire sharpening a knife. His eyes were cold and blue as river ice. Cole felt that old heat rise in his chest. He remembered Clay's laugh as his brother's ranch burned. Remembered the promise he'd made. One day, justice would ride again. He stepped out of the shadows, gun drawn. Boone. The men froze. Clay looked up, slow. Well, I'll be damned. Cole Hartman, I thought you were dust in the wind. Cole cocked the hammer. You burned my land, Boone, killed my kin. I reckon I've been riding just to find you, Boone smirked. And now you have. The camp went still. Only the crackle of fire, the hiss of wind. Cole's eyes flicked to the quicksand pit 100 yards off, the same one where he'd saved the cub. Boone's men were camped right beside it. Tell your boys to drop their irons, Cole said. Boone laughed. Or what? Or I put you in that pit and let the desert swallow you whole. Boone rose, knife glinting. You got guts, Hartman. But you ain't got luck. He drew fast. But Cole was faster. The shot cracked like thunder. Boone's knife flew from his hand, slicing through the rope of the mesquite stump. The same rope Cole had used earlier. The line snapped, sending the loose end whipping toward the pit. The ground gave way. Move! Cole yelled. 2 of Boone's men screamed as the earth swallowed them. Horses reared, men stumbled, guns fired wild. Dust and chaos exploded everywhere. Cole took cover behind a rock, firing back with surgical precision. 1, 2, 3 shots. The echoes rolled like cannon fire. By the time the dust settled, 4 men were down. Boone was gone. Cole spat blood, wiping his brow. The fire crackled low. He looked toward the quicksand pit, still bubbling, swallowing what was left of the camp. Boone's hat floated for a moment, then sank. Should have stayed dead, Cole muttered. He holstered his gun and mounted Whiskey. The moon was rising over the desert now, silver, cold, and endless. But as he turned to ride out, something rustled in the rocks above him. A shadow moved, tall, deliberate. Then a gun clicked. Don't move, cowboy, a woman's voice. Sharp, commanding. Cole froze. She stepped into the moonlight, a stranger in a long duster, dark hair spilling over her shoulders, rifle steady in her hands. Her eyes burned with the same fierce gold as the Lioness's. Who are you? He asked. She tilted her head. Name's Evelyn Cross, and you just killed the men I was hunting. Cole frowned. Bounty hunter? Something like that. She lowered the rifle a fraction. But I ain't after their scalps, Hartman. I'm after what they stole. And what might that be? She hesitated, glancing toward the pit where the last bubbles faded. A map, she said, leads to the kind of gold that started wars. Boone's gang took it from me 2 nights ago. I was trailing them to take it back. Cole looked around. Ain't much left to trail, Evelyn smirked faintly. You'd be surprised what the desert keeps. Then, she looked at him again, studying him like she could see through the dust and the scars. You're the man who saved the cub, she said softly. Cole blinked. How'd you? She nodded toward the ridge. I saw it. From up there. The Lioness didn't just beg you for help. She chose you. You don't see that out here too often. Cole shifted in the saddle. Didn't think much of it. You should, she said, stepping closer. Because in this land, kindness always comes back. Sometimes as mercy, sometimes as vengeance. The wind howled through the canyon. Somewhere far off, a lion roared. Evelyn slung her rifle. I'm heading into Dead Man's Canyon. That's where Boone was taking the map. You coming, Hartman? Cole hesitated. The ghosts of his past whispered, You're done with blood, done with vengeance. But the sound of that lioness's roar seemed to answer for him. He looked west, where the canyon swallowed the moonlight. Yeah, he said. I'm coming. They rode off together. Silhouettes cutting through the silver desert, two souls bound by the lawless heartbeat of the Wild West, and far behind them, atop the ridge, a golden lioness watched, her cub beside her, eyes glowing like embers in the dark. The night rode cold across the plains. Wind swept through the arroyos like whispers of the dead, brushing over the canyons and the cracked bones of the earth. Two riders, Cole Hartman and Evelyn Cross, cut through the moonlit desert, their horses moving in unison, hooves thudding softly against the dust. They hadn't spoken for miles. There was nothing to say. Not yet. Cole's eyes scanned the horizon, always alert, always waiting for trouble. The horizon was split open by the jagged silhouette of Dead Man's Canyon, a wound in the land as dark as coal. You ever been down there? Evelyn finally asked, her voice low but steady. Once, Cole said. Didn't stay long. Ain't much lives in that place but ghosts and snakes. She smirked faintly. That's what I'm counting on. He gave her a sideways glance. You sure that's where Boone's gang was headed? Sure as I'm breathing. Evelyn patted her satchel. They stole a piece of the map. The rest stays with me. Cole frowned. Gold's just a fool's curse in this land. She met his gaze through the moonlight. And yet here you are riding with me. He looked away. Ain't for the gold. I just got a score to settle with whatever devil Boone was working for. They reached the canyon at dawn. The sun cracked the horizon in bleeding red light, spilling fire over the rocks. The canyon yawned wide and deep, walls sheer as knives. A thin mist clung to the bottom, glowing gold in the morning rays. Evelyn dismounted first, tying her horse to a stunted juniper. Trail ends here, she said, scanning the dust. Cole crouched beside her, fingers brushing the ground. Not quite. Look here, hoof prints, wagon tracks, maybe 2 days old. Boone wasn't riding alone. She leaned closer. You think someone survived that quicksand? Cole shrugged. Boone's luck's always been rotten, but sometimes the devil saves his own. Evelyn adjusted the strap on her rifle. Then let's meet him in hell. They descended into Dead Man's Canyon. It wasn't a trail. It was a scar. The air grew heavier with every step, the silence thick enough to choke on. Shadows twisted on the walls like old ghosts reaching out. At the base, they found remnants of a camp, burned embers, empty whiskey bottles, and a single torn scrap of parchment pinned beneath a rock. Evelyn snatched it up, eyes widening. It's part of the map. Cole studied it. Symbols etched by hand, crude, almost tribal. A line drawn through the canyon toward something marked Lone Rock. What's it mean? He asked. Treasure buried by the Apache before the wars, she said. Gold, maybe relics. The kind the army would kill to get their hands on. Cole sighed. Ain't worth dying over. Evelyn's tone softened. Sometimes it's not about the gold, cowboy. Sometimes it's about what it cost to hide it. He didn't answer. The air smelled of iron and dust. Then, from somewhere up ahead, gunfire. 3 shots echoed through the canyon, sharp and close. Cole and Evelyn froze. Then they moved as one, guns drawn, boots silent against the rock. They crept around a bend. Smoke drifted from a ledge above where 3 horses were tied. And standing over a corpse, reloading his pistol, was Clay Boone. Alive. Blood ran down his temple, dust clinging to his black duster, but his eyes still burned cold. Cole raised his revolver. I put you in the dirt, Boone. Boone looked down, grinning. And yet here I am. Ain't that a kick in the teeth? Evelyn aimed her rifle. Hand over the map. Boone laughed, a dry, hollow sound. You don't get it, sweetheart. The map ain't leading to gold. It's leading to the beast that guards it. You go down that trail, you don't come back. Cole stepped forward. Talk straight. Boone's grin faded. You ever hear of the Lioness of the West? Evelyn frowned. A legend, Boone nodded. Not just legend, old Apache tale. Said a lioness guards the spirit gold, the last treasure of their people. They cursed it, made sure no white man ever touched it, and lived. And guess what's sitting at Lone Rock? Cole's stomach turned cold. He remembered those amber eyes, the roar in the dark. Evelyn's jaw tightened. You're saying the lioness is real? Boone's eyes flicked upward to the cliffs. Why don't you ask her yourself? A roar split the air, so deep it shook the ground. From the shadows of the cliff, a golden blur leapt. Cole barely had time to dive aside as the lioness, the same one he'd saved, hit Boone square in the chest. They rolled through the dirt, her claws flashing, Boone screaming. Cole ran forward, shouting, "No! Don't!" But it was over in seconds. Boone lay still, his throat torn, blood soaking into the dust. The lioness stood over him, breathing hard, her cub at her side. Then she turned her gaze on Cole. Evelyn aimed her rifle. "Cole, get back!" He raised a hand. No, the lioness didn't move. Her golden eyes flicked between him and the cub. For a moment, there was silence, pure, wild understanding. Then she turned away, padding toward the deeper part of the canyon. Her cub followed, tail brushing Cole's boot as it passed. Evelyn lowered her rifle, stunned. She spared you. Cole watched them go. She remembers. They buried Boone where he fell, under the stone arch at the canyon mouth. Evelyn laid the torn map beside him. Cole looked west. The lioness's trail led toward Lone Rock, where the canyon opened into a hidden valley. You still going after it? He asked. Evelyn nodded slowly. I have to. Not for gold, for truth. My father died searching for this place. The army called him a traitor for helping the Apache hide it. I'm finishing what he started. Cole tightened his reins. Then you ain't going alone. They rode together through the narrow pass, wind whispering like voices from another world. By noon, they reached Lone Rock, a monolith rising from the earth like a cathedral. Sunlight struck its face, revealing petroglyphs carved into the stone, lions, arrows, and spirals of fire. At its base was an opening, a cave, half buried under sand. Evelyn dismounted, heart pounding. This is it, Cole followed, lantern in hand. The air inside was cool, ancient, and heavy with the smell of earth and time. They descended deeper until the tunnel widened into a cavern. Gold shimmered in the lantern light, coins, chalices, and weapons piled like offerings. Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. He was right. It's real. But before they could move, the lioness appeared again, blocking their path. Her cub growled softly, echoing off the walls. Cole lowered his gun. We ain't here to steal. We just came to understand. Evelyn stepped forward, slowly, and placed her father's journal on the ground. This belongs here, she whispered. He helped you keep your secret. Now I'll keep it too. The lioness tilted her head, then, astonishingly, bowed. Just once. The cavern filled with silence so deep it felt holy. Then, as if satisfied, the lioness turned and disappeared into the shadows. They left the gold untouched. By dusk, the two riders emerged from the canyon, the sun setting behind them in crimson fire. The land stretched out, wild, endless, unforgiving. Evelyn looked at Cole. You could have killed her. You didn't. Cole adjusted his hat. She reminded me of someone. Once you've seen a mother fight for her young, you don't forget it. She smiled faintly. Maybe mercy's rarer than gold in these parts. He glanced back at the canyon, where the wind carried a faint echo, a lion's roar, rolling through the dusk like thunder. Maybe that's the treasure, Cole said softly. Knowing when to spare a life instead of taking one. They rode off together, the desert swallowing their tracks, and far behind them, beneath Lone Rock, the lioness lay beside her cub, guarding her ancestors' treasure through another endless Wild West night. The wind howled her song, half warning, half blessing. Because out here, in the land of dust and blood, mercy was the rarest gold of all.